UFC 303 had to be one of the most interesting cards of the year, and it was something, to be honest with you. There were so many shakeups to this card in the last like 2 months that it was completely different from where it started, and even where we thought it would finish. So many changes. There's really nothing more you could say for Alex Pereira, man. He is the scariest guy on the UFC roster right now when it comes to knockout power. Jiri really had no positive points in this fight. He survived the first round, got dropped at the end of the first round, then a massive second round head kick put Jiri out, and Jiri looked scary trying to get back up after Herb Dean stepped in to stop this fight. Alex gets another title defense, steps in short notice, another knockout. This dude is scary, and I'm interested to see Jon Jones, or do you throw him up to heavyweight and let him go after Tom Aspinall? I guess Jon Jones would be a heavyweight spot too, but Alex Pereira needs big fights because he is an absolute monster. First time in UFC history, I believe. Somebody can fact check me if I'm wrong. Dan Ige steps in on like a couple hours notice to take on Diego Lopes, Brian Ortega, heavy fever. There was the weight change, 145 to 155, that kind of indicated it originally. And Dan Ige stepped in and absolutely went to work. Diego Lopes looked really, really good early. Diego Lopes is one of the top featherweights in the world. Expect him to be very close to the title already. But Dan Ige in that third round showcased why he is a bad motherfucker, coming in this short notice and having the gas tank to continue to go. Diego Lopes ends up getting the unanimous decision, but I think as fans, we were all just super happy to see both guys kind of save the co-main event for UFC 303. Roman Dolidze defeats Anthony Smith via unanimous decision. This was an interesting fight. I think a lot of people are going to attack Anthony Smith over this one. Roman Dolidze just looked a little bit better when it came to the stand-up, but was still a very, very competitive fight. Second round, clear and away, was Roman's best round, and the first and third were pretty close. But again, another fight very shooken up when the Alberg Smith was announced. It was supposed to be Hill versus Roundtree. Somehow became Roman Dolidze Smith as the third fight on UFC 303. Macy Chiasson, Mayra Bueno Silva had an absolute war in this fight. It ended due to a cut, some unfortunate circumstances, but still a great fight for how it lasted. Macy Chiasson wins via a cut. Mayra Bueno Silva upset about it. Still a very, very nasty cut. Looked like her eyebrow was falling off. Great elbow from Macy. It happens in the UFC. Ian Garry showcases his Russian wrestling side, the Brazilian jiu-jitsu side, taking Michael Page down, winning the rounds via the grappling, and Michael Page really raising his stock as still one of the best strikers, maybe next to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson in the welterweight division, because on the feet, Page looked faster, closing the distance, landed the better shots. But Ian Garry showcased a well-rounded skill set, almost got him out of there in the first round with a submission. Heel hook second round, and third round just kind of dominated position. Great win. Prelim, huge KO. Joe Pyfer knocks out Marc-Andre Barriault in the first round. This was a great bounce back for Pyfer off of the Jack Hermanson fight. I expect to see him back in that top 10 contention very, very soon. Andre Fili, Cub Swanson have a pretty good war. Goes all 3 rounds. Fili gets a split decision win. John Silva announces himself to the UFC audience more than he has already with a massive knockout over Charles Jourdain, who is so hard to KO, and John Silva really cements himself as a rising prospect at 145 pounds with hands of stone. I got to give it to Silva credit, because even when this fight started, immediately you could tell Charles felt the power and was reacting to Silva's feints, and then coming up from a takedown, Silva lands a nasty uppercut. One punch, Mark Goddard steps in, probably the right move, the way Jourdain's head bouncing off the canvas. Good win there. Payton Talbott announces himself as a massive contender in the bantamweight division. I think Joe Rogan kind of said it best. You feel when a fighter has that thing, that it factor, that's just so hard to explain. First round knockout, first 20 seconds against a tough Yanis fighter who has had good experience in the UFC. His last fight was a competitive fight. He's fought all around the world, and Payton Talbott made him look like an amateur. Also, Gillian Robertson defeated Michelle Waterson-Gomez, probably more eventful. Waterson retires from the UFC. Great career. Thank you, Michelle. Martin Buday wins a split decision, a rather garbage split decision, but still gets a victory over a legend of the sport, Andrei Arlovski. Rei Tsuruya gets a huge win. You can check out highlight videos for most fighters that won on this card: Payton Talbott, John Silva, Rei Tsuruya, on my channel. I will link those in the description. And then Vinicius Oliveira, as an underdog, came in and impressed, defeating the UFC veteran, kind of now, Ricky Simone, in what was a great performance for Oliveira, but an overall great card that was kind of put back together in Vegas for International Fight Week. UFC 303 did have some good performances. Probably wasn't the best card of the year, but for what had happened, definitely had some good spots. But that'll do it for today's video. If you enjoyed, smash that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.